Hello and welcome to the Blood and Pigment channel. I'm Joseph. This is part 2 of our report on the 2023 Adepticon convention. A couple of us got to go and we helped run events, and this is going to kind of run through the events of the second and third day, Friday and Saturday at Adepticon. First event we did on the morning of Friday is this battle for Nassau. Oak and Iron event where we had 2 pirate players against 2 English players. This is a bit of a glorified scenario where Charles Vane is trying to escape. We had Jason design this scenario, made this awesome terrain here, put together all the lists, and made up some great custom Woodes Rogers and Charles Vane commander cards. Some great little loot items to hand out to the participants here. All our events were full. He had 3 tables of this. He made terrain for all 3 tables. It was amazing. Some custom cards for the fort as well. The pirate players had some fire ships, terrifying the English. My fire ship got blown up before it got to hit anybody, but it was a lot of fun and very dramatic. We had to fight our way across the board and try to protect Charles Vane as he tried to escape. Well, the English players with some big warships and with some auxiliary supply ships fought us. We had this fort that could shoot all the way across the board and do more damage than some of our pirate ships could do, especially since they were trying to make quick progress across the board. All 3 tables seemed to have a pretty good time. Josh here had 1 table, Jason had another, and I was at the third. Very different results. A lot more burning ships on some tables than others. Ours was, some of our pirate ships got beat to pieces, and we might have knocked out 1 English ship, but overall our pirates weren't that successful. We had a demo session in the middle of the day, 12 players doing demos of Blood and Plunder and Oak and Iron. The whole afternoon there was this big Flames of War tournament going on, pretty noisy. And then the big event of the whole con, at least the one I was most excited about, was the Blood and Plunder C tournament, 200-point tournament. We had 24 players, 23 players signed up, but we had 20 players show up. It was pretty mixed group. Some people really were experts at the game. Some people were casual. Some people had never played before, just played at the demo at the con. So it took a while to get it set up, but we had a 3-round tournament. A lot of the new plastic sloops on the table, some tartanas, several tartanas, a sloop of war, a galleon. Good mix of ships, but nothing too big besides that galleon. That was definitely the outlier. A lot of Spanish forces. You can see a whole article breaking down kind of the different forces and tactics used over the course of the tournament on the blog, Blood and Pigment. Just look up Adepticon tournament, and there's a nice report there. And then there's some articles on the top 3, the placing force lists. A couple of the original sloops. I was curious to see if a lot of cannons got used after the update to the cannon rules and Raise the Black, but there were some cannons. I built a loner force that had 3 medium guns and a sloop, and it did really well, but not a lot of people brought heavy cannon lists. Several sloops had 3 or 4 pairs of small light guns, but not a lot of focus on cannons. There is the big galleon that Jason took for his tournament force, Royal British Navy, with Challenger Ogle as the commander. Did very well. A lot of swivel gun action. A lot of sloop-on-sloop battles. There was some boarding, but not a lot of boarding. A lot of just shooting it away, people kind of playing it safe. This was a pretty fun game. This was the top table after the first round. A Tartana versus a sloop. That sloop, you can see right there, it got lined up for a rake. It did a ton of damage. It got 3 critical hits. It got a catastrophic damage, and then it hit the powder magazine, so the whole Tartana blew up there at that one volley. He was going down anyway, but that was a dramatic win. He enjoyed that. A Spanish Armada de Barlovento, I believe, versus some French Buccaneers maybe in the Tartana. That was the first round. The second round, that Spanish list got boarded and wiped clean by Nigel's Black Caesar list in that Bermuda sloop. That was pretty deadly, but he fought back for a good while there. There were 90-minute rounds, which not everybody finished. It was a pretty aggressive time frame, but to get 3 rounds in a reasonable time, you have to be pushed pretty hard. This is Dexter's Royal Navy. And there's several Royal Navy lists. A lot of spiritual leaders now with that new monk as part of the box of plunder from the Kickstarter. Dexter won the best painted force at the end of the tournament. His ship especially was really awesome looking. He worked hard to pack all that stuff in from out of country as well. As Kyle there in the green and black, he learned how to play that day during the demo session, and then he came and played really well. He placed 4th, actually, in the whole tournament. More sloop-on-sloop action. Old sloop versus new sloop. Good mix. Round 3 was pretty high stakes here. Nigel, with his Black Caesar list, went up against Jason with his galleon. And it was pretty crazy. It was pretty tense. They were just circling each other. That galleon is so hard to board, and it has such a height advantage, but Nigel's sloop is super fast, and it has that free move at the beginning of the turn with a ship upgrade, but they just fought it out. We put an extra half hour at the end of the tournament before the last round here by agreement of everyone, but they still didn't play out their full 6 turns. It was time. We let them finish out their activation, and then it was still a tie, so we let them finish out the whole turn. And it turns out they tied for strike points, they tied for points of models lost, and they tied for number of models lost. So it was an exact tie, which the tournament packet allows for, but it makes it really hard to tie because it's no good for a tournament really. But they did tie, so even though they were playing at the top table, they both earned 1 tournament point instead of 3 for a win. So Mark there with the hat, who came into the last round at 4th place, but since the top 2 players tied and he won his match, he was the only player with 3 wins in the whole tournament, and he took 1st place. That was awesome. He had a loner force. His table, that second table, that was Garrett versus Mark. Garrett actually made Mark's list, so he got beat by his own list for 1st place in the tournament. It was both really good games. Noticed, looking over the lists, that those top 4 lists all had a pretty high number of swivel guns. Swivel guns seem to be one of the highest, most efficient ways to throw dice at each other right now in the game. Kind of knew that going into it, but I was curious to see how it would play out, and that was accurate. More sloop on sloop. There's a lot of sloops. There's near the end of that final game. Great to see so many players enjoying the game and learning a lot. You learn a lot at a tournament just because you play your own list. You learn a lot about your own list, playing it 3 times in a row, back to back. You start to see what's working and what's not. And playing different people, you sharpen your skills, knowledge of the rules, because everybody oversees something, overlooks something, and playing somebody else, they'll catch what you've overlooked, and you can help them catch what they've overlooked. So saw a lot of people learning a lot about the rules, and sometimes it's painful, but it's always good. This was a scenario where one ship's trying to catch the other. Dexter was determined not to get caught, and he did not. He sailed off the board there. This galleon, it's pretty strong in tournament settings, especially for how much it costs you, but once you get in the eye of the wind, it's pretty slow, but he managed to get in the eye of the wind and then just box all adrift backwards a little bit and get out. He did not get boarded. That was pretty impressive. There's our top 3 players. Mark, there on the right, won the tournament. Did a great job. He used that loner Spanish Armada list, a lot of swivels and some of the new units from Raise the Black. Nigel got 2nd place with his Black Caesar list. He had a few more better strike point differential, even though they were tied for tournament points. His very aggressive list, he sharpened that list quite a while before the tournament, thought it through really well, had a nice painted set of miniatures. Jason won 3rd place there with his Royal Navy galleon list. It was fun. We had Spanish win, and then Pirates, and then English, so a nice mix of forces, but they were all from Raise the Black, I think mostly just because a lot of the experienced players are enjoying the new factions out of Raise the Black, but there was a good mix of older and newer factions throughout the tournament. And of course, Mike Tunia is there in the middle. It was hard for him to stop by just because of the split venue issue. He was over at the booth selling stuff all day, but he was able to come in after the vendor booth closed and watch the tournament and see how things are going. The tournament went till about 11 o'clock. Saturday, we did a amphibious scenario. Real fun. 2 tables of 6 players each, where we had pirates coming into the land trying to steal the salvaged silver treasure from the Spanish. So Spanish defending, pirates coming in. Amphibious is always real fun. It looks good. It's one of the things Blood and Plunder does really well. Had a mix of experienced and new players. 200 points per player, so a 1,200 point board there. 600 points per side. Spanish lost in both cases, I believe. Looked like they were doing fine until the boats give you a nice advantage where you get to move and have cover. And this Buccaneer musketry is pretty good. Some people brought their own forces. We provided some forces. It all worked out pretty well. Thanks to Firelock for getting all those mats for us to make it work out. And Jason and Garrett provided all that terrain. Actually, some of it was from Rufus from Firelock as well. A lot of boats. We had one French contingent, the Franco-Spanish alliance there. During this event, the Blood and Valor tournament started, and we got to peek in on some of those games. A good tournament, about 10 players, I think. Very healthy size. A couple lists from their new book, End of Empires. Miguel actually won this tournament too. At Historicon, we all gave him a hard time because he played in 3 tournaments and lost all 9 games. But he redeemed himself in this event. He almost won the Blood and Plunder tournament, well, undefeated, and he won the Blood and Valor tournament. He's a Japanese list. Met a lot of great people. I flew in from Oregon to Chicago, but I met some people from Washington and made some plans for hitting one of the historical conventions in my side of the world. Great to make connections. This game it was only a 4-turn game, and we finished up right as our 3 hours expired, and we'd made some desperate moves. I was playing Spain. We were playing army scale rules, so I was the general for Spain. We made some desperate moves trying to stop those pirates getting the silver off the beach, and we stopped 1 or 2, but most of them got that treasure and got away. Demo time was really awesome. On Saturday, did a 3-person demo here with 1 larger Spanish ship and with medium cannons and 2 smaller pirate ships. These guys, good gamers, and understood what they were doing real well. I got them started in the first couple turns, and then they played out the rest of their game. Even had the pirates took the Spanish ship, and the pirates decided to turn on each other and fight each other. That's pretty fun. Awesome guys. And then we had a couple hours in between that and the final tournament of the convention, the Oak and Iron tournament. Garrett and I have been studying and working on some historical scenarios, especially for Queen Anne's War in the southeast. So this is the Ayubale scenario where the English are coming and raiding a Spanish mission. We got to play test this. We collaborated on it. It was really great to actually sit down and play it together rather than just talk about our games. I played the English with James Moore raiding this Father Miranda's mission outpost. Some really fun rules for arrows running out. He's a really strong commander. I had to time tried to charge over those walls. Always hard to charge a fort. My English made it into the fort, but not in time and didn't clean anything up, so I lost. Obviously, it's not balanced if I lost, so I have to tweak that a little bit. The Oak and Iron tournament was really great. We had 10 players, I think, and they all brought their forces and knew what they were doing. It was refreshing after a bit of a chaotic Blood and Plunder tournament. Yeah, they did great. I was kind of the extra man in case we had an odd number. But we had an even number. I wanted to play, but I didn't get to play, so I continued this Ayubale scenario. Well, they played out the tournament there. Yeah, there's my English charging in. I had to retreat once because my charge failed. I didn't get initiative, and then had to restart the whole assault. But didn't have quite enough steam at the time I got there. Couldn't break into the church and massacre those civilians like I needed to do. They were doing great. They didn't need much help. Jason was running the tournament, but he wasn't needed very often. Mike was able to come by and watch over things as well. Jason and I actually got to start a game of Oak and Iron there while the tournament was going because they didn't need much help. Jason had these we played our tournament lists that we were going to use if we needed to. He had these fire ships that were pretty terrifying. I had an English list with lots of cannons. I tried to stop those fire ships before they came in on me, but I got it anyway. There's some beautiful ships there, all rigged up. That's the first of the top players' fleet there. I think it was Spanish. Beautiful paint jobs, and that rigging is something else. It was a totally different crew. Usually there's, well, not entirely, I think one Blood and Plunder player played in the Okinawa tournament. At Historicon, where my last convention I was at, they had a kind of Iron Man set up for tournaments where you are encouraged to play at least 3 of the 4 tournaments. We tried to do a little bit gentler tournament schedule in this convention, which I think was healthy, but there was less overlap. I didn't know a lot of these guys here, but they seem to know what they're doing more or less, although I did hear a couple concerning questions. How does line of sight work? Near the very end of the tournament, so that was kind of funny. We didn't quite finish our game, but it was a lot of fun. Ran over some shoals, got hit by some fire ships, got some raking shots in, made the Dutch pay for their fire ships by making them thread the needle between their hulks and the island and rake them. That was fun. This is some of the volunteers that were working on the events in the Firelock booth. That's Tyler on the left, the Dead Man's Chest blog. That's Garrett, who worked hard the whole convention with us. That is Jason, second to right, who put so much prep time in and worked hard the whole time. And that's me on the right. Worked hard, had a lot of fun. Really great to meet people and see them enjoy the game and help out Firelock. We didn't get to finish our game, but Jason crunched the numbers. We got prizes awarded. Here are the top players here. That's Jason on the left. That's Armon, I believe it was his name. He did a great job and won the tournament. And that's Josh, I believe, got second in the hat. And Dave, who hadn't played very long, but was working real hard at getting the rules down and honing his force over the course of the whole convention, and took 3rd place. Did awesome. Had fun. There's the whole crew. How many players is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 8 players plus Jason there. And that was kind of the end of our convention. We cleaned up. We put away our game. We didn't want to finish at midnight. Packed up all our terrain, and then next morning we got to finally go over to the vendor hall, which is kind of fun. We hadn't been over to the vendor hall since Wednesday. Mostly just hung out with the Firelock guys. I had to head out that kind of about 11 o'clock. So great to see a lot of the stock they brought was gone. They had a record-breaking event for them as far as how much they sold. They ran out of some things. Very encouraging for the company as a whole. Really excited about these conventions starting back up again and being a big deal. Guy and Rufus there. They're a big part of travel and bringing all the material up. That's Tyler doing demos. He demoed non-stop over those 3-4 main days, and he's really got that down. Does an amazing job. That was our convention experience. It was great convention. Planning to go back next year and do it again. It seems like several people I think all 4 of us from Blood and Pigment are going to try to get there next year. And several people on the Facebook page and Discord planning to be there as well, trying to make Adepticon one of the main events for Blood and Plunder and Okinawa during the year. So if you're interested, it'd be a great chance to get in on some fun action. I think they're planning some events for Gen Con as well in early August if you want another convention, plus several in Florida, I think. I'm not sure the whole convention schedule, but if you are interested in participating in some of these events and tournaments, it's a lot of fun. You learn a lot and meet some great people and have a great time. Thanks for watching and sharing in our convention experience here. Hope to see you at a con soon. For more Blood and Plunder content, check out the rest of our channel. Check out our blog as well, bloodandpigment.com, where we have hundreds of articles related to Blood and Plunder. And if you appreciate content related to this game, check out our Patreon. You can drop us a couple bucks a month and help us continue to produce content. We love the game, we love producing content for it, and if you love that too, we'd appreciate your support. Thank you for watching. And I'll let Dan take us out.
As always, keep your dice ready and the wind at your back, yar har.